Following last year's October the 7th Hamas attacks, Israel launched a brutal response on Gaza. The EU's response was unequivocal.
Israel is a democracy attacked by Hamas. Israel has the right of self-defense.
Despite over 40,000 Palestinians killed and a wider escalation of war in the region and tens of thousands protesting on the streets of Europe, the mantra, 1 year on, remains unchanged.
Free, free, Palestine!
Across Europe's capitals, calls for restraint have done little to stop the onslaught. And whilst there have been words of condemnation directed at Israel from some countries like Spain, Ireland and Belgium, European countries have largely continued to stand by Israel. Palestinian ambassadors in Europe say hypocrisy is rife.
We see this double standard of the international community. On the one hand, the condemnation of the Russian invasion to Ukraine, and on the other hand, either silent or being supportive to the Israeli occupation in the occupied Palestinian territories. Israel cannot claim self-defense. They cannot claim they're an occupying power.
The EU is Israel's biggest trade partner, accounting for 28.8% of trade in goods in 2022. That amounted to over $51 billion. In terms of arms sales, last year, European nations' weapons sales to Israel were worth $361 million, with Germany and Italy exporting the most. That marks a tenfold increase compared with 2022. France has now announced a halt on arms deliveries to Israel, sparking anger from Netanyahu. Paris is not a leading weapons provider for Israel, but its voice as a key player in the European Union matters.
If we call for a ceasefire, what's consistent is not to provide weapons of war, and I think that those who supply them cannot call for a ceasefire every day and continue to supply them.
People power has arguably played a big role, perhaps under pressure from mass protests across the continent. Many EU countries have joined the list, recognising the state of Palestine. Since October the 7th, week in, week out, protesters have taken to the streets all over Europe to demand their government call for a ceasefire and an end to arms sales to Israel. But as the genocide in Gaza continues, for all its talk of the rule of law and human rights, the EU has seemingly failed to uphold either. Shadia Edwards-Dashti, TRT World, London.